Hi friends, it's Aubrey. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you some crockpot meals that I am making with my family this week because it's going to be over 100 degrees, which is very hot for Oregon. So if you're interested to see what I make, keep watching. For this first crockpot recipe, I made cracked chicken. I'll be sure to have the recipe linked down below for you. And I did a half recipe. So I used some thighs instead of chicken breasts, and then 1 tablespoon of dried parsley, a half tablespoon of dried dill, a half tablespoon of dried chives, about a half teaspoon of garlic powder and onion powder, and then a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper. And then I just eyeballed the salt. I added 8 ounces of cream cheese to my slow cooker and then cook this on low for about 4 hours because my crock pot runs pretty hot. When that was done, I added a half cup of cheddar cheese and some bacon bits to my crock pot. You can also add green onions if you have those on hand. I gave this all a good stir and then put this on top of buns, and we had it with a fruit salad. It was delicious. I highly recommend this one. For this next crock pot meal, I am making chili, and I'm using some black beans and red beans, both of which I made in my last video, so I'll be sure to have that linked here for you if you want to know how to make them very easily in the Instant Pot. And then I also used a pound of ground beef, an onion, tomato sauce, diced tomatoes, and a whole bunch of different seasonings, and also some beef broth. I'll be sure to have everything in the comments or in the description box of the video so you guys can check that out. Basically, you just throw everything into the crock pot, you leave it on low for 4 to 6 hours. You could go longer if you needed to. And then we served ours over some rice with a little bit of cheese. You can add whatever else you think would be delicious on this. And this was my husband's favorite chili that I've ever made, so I hope you enjoy. This next slow cooker recipe is beef tips, and I am very, very loosely following a recipe. I'll have it linked down below. The one that I was following only had 4 ingredients, so if you are in a pinch and don't have very many ingredients or on a tight budget, this might be a good option for you. And what I did to add some additional flavor to mine was I added some additional seasonings to it. So let me tell you what those were. I browned my meat in a little bit of oil with some onion powder, garlic powder, salt, pepper, and parsley. And I let this just brown a little bit on all the sides. And if you're in a pinch, you can definitely just do this as a throw and go recipe, but I definitely recommend browning your meat just to get some additional flavor. And then I added in 1 onion that I had diced up and an onion soup packet mix. That way we could get some additional delicious flavor in there. And next I added in 3 cups of beef broth and a little bit of Worcestershire sauce just for some more beefy flavor, and stirred that all together. And I cooked this on high for about 3.5 hours. My Instant Pot on the crock pot function. And once this was all done, I went ahead and added in a half cup of water with about 3 tablespoons of cornstarch and gave this a good stir until it was a nice slurry, and dumped that in to my Instant Pot with it on saute and let the gravy thicken up. We served this over some buttered noodles. This was delicious. I definitely recommend this one. And next time I see this kind of beef on sale, I will definitely be stocking up on some so I can make this again. This next recipe is a Tikka Masala, and you can cook this just by throwing it into your crock pot as like a dump and go recipe. You can also season the chicken and cook it on the stove, or you can do what I did if you have an Instant Pot and just season the chicken with all the different seasonings, which I'll tell you here in just a minute, and then cook it with a little bit of oil and the onion in your Instant Pot, and then turn the Instant Pot on the slow cooker function when you're done with that. So those are some couple of options. Really doesn't matter whatever way you go. It will taste delicious. So for the spices, I used 1.5 tablespoons of garam masala, a half teaspoon of cumin, a half teaspoon of turmeric, a half teaspoon of paprika, a half teaspoon of salt, a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne. If you want it spicy, I left it out. Some fresh cracked pepper, And then you're gonna mix all of this together, put it on the chicken, and cook this until it gets a nice crust. And then you will go ahead and add in your garlic and onion to get those cooking and fragrant. And if you have fresh ginger, you can go ahead and throw it in as well. I actually ended up using some dried ginger, about a teaspoon of that. And then you'll throw in a 15-ounce can of tomato sauce and cook this for about 4 hours on low. For my Instant Pot, I only ended up cooking it for about 3.5 just because it runs pretty hot. After the 3 to 4 hours, you'll go ahead and stir in a third cup of heavy cream and just let this sit for about 20 minutes. Or if you're using your Instant Pot, you can use the saute function for about 3 to 4 minutes just to make sure everything is cooked through. And then you can serve this over rice. I'll be sure to have the recipe linked down below in case you want to try it out for yourself. This last recipe is General Tso's chicken, and this is probably the only one out of these that can't be a dump and go crock pot recipe just because you have to coat the chicken in cornstarch and fry it up a little bit before you cook it in the sauce in your slow cooker. So that's the one downside to this, but this was delicious, so I still recommend it and wanted to include it here. And so first I took my chicken breast and chicken thigh because I only had one of each and cut those into bite-sized chunks, put it in a fourth cup of cornstarch with about a half teaspoon of pepper and a half teaspoon of salt. Mix that all around to make sure it was well coated. And then I had some oil heating up in my Instant Pot on the saute function, and I put the chicken in there. And it did get a little too hot, so everything stuck, which was very frustrating, but that's okay. It still all turned out just fine. So I let that brown on the sides, and then I made my sauce. I was making a half recipe of this since I didn't have 4 chicken breasts, which is what the recipe calls for. So for the sauce, everything is a half recipe. I'll be sure to have the full recipe and all of those instructions in the comments down below for you. But what I used was a fourth cup of hoisin, an eighth of a cup of soy sauce, an eighth of a cup of honey, an eighth of a cup of rice vinegar, and then about 2 garlic cloves. And then I also, instead of using minced fresh ginger, I only had dried powdered ginger. So I used about a half teaspoon of that. I made sure to stir as I was adding in each ingredient to make sure all of them were well combined. You could also mix this in a bowl or something beforehand and then dump it all in at the same time. I was just trying to not have as many dishes. So, another thing that I thought of with this recipe is you could double the sauce and add in a bunch of different veggies like green beans, peppers, or onions, or whatever you think would taste really good with this. And then that would give you some additional veggies in an easy way that would just be cooking with the chicken as well. I cooked this on low for about 3.5, 4 hours, and then it was done. And so we served this with some rice and broccoli on the side. And this was a really good dinner. I think we'll be adding it into our meal rotation going forward. That is all I have for you guys today. I hope you did enjoy. If you did, please give this video a like and leave me a comment down below of some of your favorite crockpot dinners. I would love to try them out. And I hope you have the best rest of your day. Bye!